This story might be a little lame, but it honestly shook me up. I'm a grown man with kids, and also the oldest son of 7 siblings. A few years ago I was camping with my dad and some siblings, and my dad says he's going to make our favourite campsite dessert. I'm thinking s'mores, but he pulls out a bunch of bananas and says, banana boats. I'm like, Dad, WTF is a banana boat? And he stops and says, OP, we've been making these at pretty much every camping trip since you were little. I think he's pulling my leg, and he thinks I'm pulling his. I ask my siblings. They remember banana boats. It's just me with no memory of this food item. I'm thinking maybe I just don't know the name, so he makes them, and the whole time it's completely unfamiliar. Opening a banana peel, shoving in chocolate, and then cooking it in the fire till it's all bubbly. Looks delicious, but I've never eaten it in my life. Anyway, everybody proceeds to dig in, and I'm dumbstruck that I'm missing this memory. We went camping a lot. We never stopped camping. This isn't something I'd forget. I'm the oldest. I helped with cooking all the time. I know it's small and weird, but I think I switched timelines for my whole family. And so far, the only difference is banana boats. I believe we shift timelines daily, and usually it's minor shifts, and they aren't noticeable. Sometimes it's more major, and we get new memories that go along with the shift, and we don't notice the changes. But sometimes the replacement memories don't stick, and we are left confused. A year ago I was driving home from our son's house at twilight, and I was experiencing a shift in real time. There's a reason that twilight has a weird reputation, but I never noticed this kind of thing before. As I got up the road to a big intersection, I noticed several subtle differences. The lot on my right was different. I took that right, and there was now an old gas station that I had never noticed before in the 2 years we'd been living near here. Then, the whole way home, for a 20-minute drive, lots of things felt different all along the way. It even continued as I entered our development. A brick wall had changed shape. Several houses were slightly different looking. This was all so disturbing that I had to stop and evaluate my physical health. I wondered if I might be having a stroke or some other neurological issue. Things didn't only look and feel different. I felt different. I began to wonder if my family members might feel different too. Fortunately, any such differences were very minor and unnoticeable. The next day, I felt more normal. Ever since, I've been living in a much more malleable world, where odd things keep happening and I am noticing and remembering things that are and were different. I had a shirt that I liked, and it had a large odd discolored spot / stain on the front. It had it for years, and I liked the shirt too much to toss it. I tried several different approaches over several years, off and on, to get rid of the spot with no success. It is a white polyester blend, and my theory was that it must be a slight burn discoloration caused by an iron that was too hot. Still, I could not trash the shirt. Then, a few weeks ago, I put it on as I would do from time to time, just to wear around the house, and I noticed that the slightly discolored spot was no longer there. Totally gone. I asked my wife if she did something, and she had not. I believe we shift regularly. We just aren't supposed to notice. I've been watching a series called The Lazarus Project on Netflix lately, and it's all about some people who can reset the world's timeline, and a few people who notice it when it happens. it feels a lot more than fiction to me. Anyone else feel these shifts? I recently got a new job at a large warehouse. I've only worked there 1 week. Things are changing like crazy. First, the warehouse floor is a maze. There are taped lines leading everywhere to tell you what is safe and not safe. I have to walk to the other side of the warehouse to get to my area. For the first couple of days, I could not find a direct route. I had to walk right to get left, and take a route that was basically a large C-shape. I even tried following the old maze trick of just going right at every turn, etc. Then I came into work on my 3rd day, and suddenly every route leads directly to my area. I can basically walk a straight line there now. It is hard not to end up in my area, when before it was hard to find. The tape is not new. It's obviously old and worn. It goes through areas that I know were blocked off. I've found 5 different paths that all go pretty direct, and the path I had figured out before no longer exists. Second, people that I met in the first few days don't exist anymore. One person I talk to a few times every day no longer recognizes me. There are a couple people I can't even find. It's possible some people went on vacation or got fired, but the one person not knowing who I am anymore is disconcerting. Third, this is the reason I had to post. I went into a restroom today. I've been in there before. It had 1 urinal and 2 stalls. 1 normal stall and 1 larger stall. Today I went in and both stalls were open. The smaller stall was not flushed, so I skipped it and went into the cleaner, larger stall. While I was in the stall, someone went into the stall next to me. I saw their boots under the stall wall, and I could hear them lower the seat. Then nothing. I had looked away, and when things went silent, I glanced over and no longer saw their boots. I thought nothing of it at the time. Figured they had left and I missed it. When I came out of the stall, I went to wash my hands and noticed, in the mirror, that the stall I came out of was now the only stall that existed. 1 urinal, 1 larger stall. The smaller stall had disappeared. I had to turn around to double check, just in case it was a weird point of view thing. Nope. A stall went missing while I was in the other stall. I thought I was going crazy. I will watch for more changes. The first couple of things were more odd and disconcerting, but the third one was too much. Has anyone else had something like this happen? A couple of months ago, I had a dream unlike any other. I experienced a whole separate life of 15 years in the matter of 7 hours of sleep. Here's the story. So the day was just like any other day. I wasn't overly tired or anything. I went to work normally. I had the same evening routine and everything. Nothing felt out of the ordinary. I usually go to sleep around the same time every night, and this wasn't any different. Now, I do want to preface by saying I've always had crazy dreams. I used to have a lot of dreams about dying and having terrible things happen to me. I've had lucid-like dreams. I've even had 2 occasions of what seems to be astral projection. My dreams have always been vivid, or overly emotional, or whatever. So usually I'm not affected by these things. Anyways, I go to bed that night, and as I fall asleep, the dream starts. I come to in a bedroom. Now, the first thing I remember feeling is a sense of confusion. It's like when you walk into a room and forget what you went into the room for. It was only for a moment, but as I looked down, there's my boyfriend in my lap, looking up at me curiously. And as soon as we made eye contact, it was like everything just clicked. The confusion was gone, and suddenly I was just aware of who I am and what's going on. I wasn't anyone different, and the guy in my lap was my ex-boyfriend from 2 years prior, but in this dream we had never broken up. I also want to say, after that initial moment of confusion, there wasn't anything else that ever alluded to me not being me. I accepted all that was around me. I had all the memories and experiences, and I accepted it as fact. Also, usually when I've had dreaming experiences, emotions and everything feel very vivid and hyper-realistic. Any time I ever encountered pain or any physical contact in previous dreams, it was like a phantom pain, like a dull, not real pain. In this dream, everything was real. Every subtle emotion, every thought, every paper cut or bruise or touch was real. I could actually feel it. Anyway, back to the experience. We were just joking around and whatnot. Then he suddenly got serious and looked at me and said, "Let's do this." And I was like, "Do what?" And he nudges me and was all timid and said, "You know, get married." And I scolded him for being so nonchalant about asking me to marry him and whatnot. But in that moment, the memories him and I had, some actual memories from when we were together in this reality, and some that are from that dream world. And I said yes. So my life continued in this world. I experienced every day fully. There were never gaps of time or whatnot. Every day I fully lived. From boring conversations at work, being stuck in traffic, meaningless arguments, etc., to my wedding day, the birth of our child, funerals, birthdays, my child's first steps, and first day of school. All of it was continuous. And this is why it still affects me, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head. I feel this unimaginable grief, and I have these insights that there's no way I could know the feeling. Furthermore, I've always had the fear that if I ever did have a kid, and have already decided that if I did, it would not be biologically mine, that I would never truly understand what it is like to create life and have that connection. Before this, I have never been the most nurturing person, or even had the feeling of what parenthood feels like. Like the idea of kids was far off idea that may or may not happen. But I remember the feeling of seeing my child for the first time. I remember something accustomed to a flower blooming inside of me, knowing that the love I have for my child was unlike anything I've ever known. It was a love above anything else I've ever felt. It is an understanding unlike anything I've ever known. And I can't stress this enough. It has never made sense to me why to have children. But in this dream it made sense. I can picture him at every stage in life. If I had any artistic talent, I could draw sketches of him throughout him growing up. I spent all these years with people and experienced life with them. I learned things, grew, made new friends, experienced death of loved ones, etc. Then, just a random day, I snap awake. Nothing to prepare me or even know that this would come to an end. Just as quick as someone snapping their fingers, I lost it all. I woke up in my bed and shot straight up, back into reality like coming up for air after holding your breath underwater. And then the grief set in. Everything hit me at once. I have never felt a sorrow like I have felt after waking up. I lost so much. A husband, memories, accolades, etc. But above all, I lost my child. And that's what hurts the most. I have this grief inside me for a life that isn't mine. I have these years of growth and experiences and life that I can't explain. And it makes me feel crazy, and even more sad because I can't even rationalize all of this myself. It doesn't make sense how I experienced that. I'm a pretty rational and scientific person, and nothing I've come across or seen has given me any clarity or closure. If anyone has experienced this too, please reach out. And while I can never fully articulate the detail and experiences of those years, I would think it would provide me with a lot of closure to find other people who have had the same experiences. Maybe I won't get any answers to the questions and whatnot, but I would at least get comfort. I'm 22 now, but this incident has stayed with me so clearly that I remember it better than most things in my life. This happened when I was around 17. I wasn't intoxicated or dreaming. I was completely aware and conscious during the whole event. I had gone to visit my aunt's house with my mum. She lives in an old government apartment building, the kind that has 5 to 6 floors with identical and old concrete walls and staircases. Her flat was on the 3rd floor. At one point, I decided to go downstairs to watch newborn puppies. After watching them, when I started climbing back up, I remember passing floor after floor, but nothing looked familiar. There were no markings or floor numbers, even no apartment gates, just the same repeating walls and stairs. It felt like I had climbed a lot more than just 3 floors. And then, suddenly, I reached the top of the staircase, and everything changed. Instead of the usual floor and doors, I saw what looked like a school corridor. Not the school corridor we had in Indian high schools. A long hallway, lined with lockers, just like the ones you see in American high school movies. It was brightly lit and completely unfamiliar. And there were kids inside who felt like they were not Indian, going about like it was totally normal. I just stood there on the staircase, shocked, staring, wondering, what are these kids doing here? And why this old building has something that looks so clean and good. I remember very clearly a young black girl looked at me from inside the corridor and waved or said hi. She smiled like I was supposed to be there. I didn't respond. I was frozen. Then I slowly turned around and walked back down the stairs. As I climbed down, the same old staircase returned, the usual old walls and layout. And as soon as I passed one more level down, I was suddenly at the familiar 3rd wall again. Everything was normal. Out of confusion, I went back up again, and this time, it was just the 4th floor apartment. No corridor, no lockers, no students, no black girl that waved at me. I even asked my aunt later if there was any school nearby, or if the building had any sort of renovated section. She had no idea what I was talking about, and said there was nothing like that. She assumed I was daydreaming, but I know I wasn't. This wasn't a dream. It felt way too real. The lighting, the walls, the girl, the way she noticed me, all of it was vivid. I still remember every detail. I've had dreams. I've had hallucinations. This was not one of them. This felt like I slipped into another version of reality for a few minutes. I have no explanation for it, but it happened, and I haven't forgotten it ever since. I didn't have the courage to discuss this with someone, in case they declare me crazy. Was this a time slip? A dimension bleed? A liminal space event? Or something else? If anyone's experienced anything like this, please reply. I'm not crazy. I'm a working man. A few weeks ago, my Facebook timeline was bombarded with the dreaded RIP and "she was too young" posts from friends from my small town that I grew up in. Tons of people were tagging the profile of the person who met their unfortunate demise in a car crash. And after checking it out, I surmised that I didn't know the person, and continued to swipe through the many, many posts as they continued to fill my timeline. Eventually, I happened on one that made me pause, think, and question my entire memory of my childhood. The post came from someone I graduated high school with. It read something along the lines of, "Rest in peace, sister. You're with Mum now." This particular person comes from a large and well-known family consisting of 2 boys and 2 girls. This little group used to attend the daycare that my mum worked at, and my mum used to absolutely adore the youngest, who was a little boy, probably around 3 years younger than myself. This group would also regularly come to stay at my house while the parents were both at work. It was always the 2-boy and 2-girl combo. Initially, my reaction was to assume that the deceased could have just earned the nickname of sister, or maybe had even adopted into the family at a later time. But as I continued to scroll through the pictures and memories, there were so many that spanned from when we were all kids. Things like high school events, sports, birthday parties. I wasn't in a single one of the pictures, but all of my good friends were. Not necessarily telling of anything. I've always been camera shy. There's also the fact that she absolutely looks like she belongs in the family as well. I tried to think back as hard as I could and actually came up with a single memory of this girl's existence. It was back in my mum's daycare days when I was there helping her watch the younger kids, and she was brought in as almost a newborn, just so that the daycare workers and the other kids could see her. I can remember the mum walking in with a little blanket-wrapped bundle and bringing it low to the ground, and all the kids and adults rushing over to look. Then the bundle being picked up and whisked away. The more I try to recall this memory though, the more it feels manufactured. I did eventually decide to talk with my mum about it, as it's always tough hearing that a kid you potentially babysat had passed away, and felt super validated when my mum responded, "I don't really remember her." That is, until she followed up with, "I don't really remember any of the kids from the daycare anymore." As I continued to flip through old yearbooks, it's like she was always there, just out of eyesight of me. I would ride the school bus home with this family. We would buy food that the family had prepared, and she would have gone to the same school of approximately 300 students. But somehow, I never knew she existed. I sit back and think of the number of sheer coincidences that would have to have been in place for me to miss her growing up, or the terrifying things that must be wrong with my brain to forget her entire existence. But every time, I settle on the same explanation in the end. This person couldn't possibly have existed until recently. Back in 2021, I know my boyfriend and I watched Happy Death Day, and then Happy Death Day to You right after. He was the one who suggested it, and I remember us making fun of certain scenes together. Now it's 2025. We're reminiscing, and I suggest rewatching Happy Death Day. He looks at me completely blank and says, "We never watched that." I don't even know what that is. I thought he was joking, but nope. He swore up and down he never saw it. We ended up arguing, so I pulled up my Google search history from 2021 to prove him wrong. And guess what? There's no trace of that movie in my history. Like it never existed in my life that year. Same thing happened with the Tinkerbell movies. We had watched them many times before. He even made jokes about certain scenes back then. Now, he swears he's never seen them, and doesn't even know the storyline. Either my memory is broken, he's gaslighting me without realizing it, or I somehow switched to a slightly different universe where those moments never happened. Has anyone else had memories that used to be shared with someone, but in your current reality, they didn't happen? A few years ago, one of my online friends got a new PC. I know this happened, not because I remember her posting excitedly about it on Facebook, but because I literally connected to it remotely to help her set things up. I saw her specs, helped her configure some stuff, and even remember thinking how nice of an upgrade it was compared to the old laptop she used to complain about. We don't really talk consistently anymore, but we still message each other occasionally to catch up. About 6 months ago was the last time we spoke, until just the other day, when I reached out and asked if she wanted to play some Minecraft with me. She joined me, and we played for a bit, like we used to together. Nowadays I'm really into VR chat, so I asked if she wanted to try it out with me, and some of my other friends sometime. She said she couldn't. Her laptop is like 10 years old, and can't run it. I was confused, so I said, "Wait, didn't you get a new PC a while back?" And she just said, "No, I never did." I thought she was messing with me at first. But no, she genuinely acted like it never happened. I even went back to try and find the Facebook post she made about it, and it's gone. No pictures, no comments, no sign it was ever there. The only thing I could find is a post about her new desk, which she got at the same time as her PC. But I remember helping her set it up. I remember what the post said. I remember checking her specs myself. And now, nothing. I'm honestly extremely confused regarding the whole situation. I'm 100% sure I'm not being confused with anyone else. The friend mentioned in the story was my only online friend for many years. I specifically remember being on call with her as I helped her get things set up as well. Edit. I know for a fact that this was not a dream. Hello watchers and listeners. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have a story you'd like to share with the channel, please send it to my email. It's found in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel memberships are now available, with custom badges and emojis. Only one tier at the moment, but more will be added soon, with more perks. So, feel free to check that out if that sounds interesting to you. And, as always, the biggest thank you to all of you. I truly appreciate all of your support throughout the years. And remember,
Papa loves you.